This is Ellen Hayashi, and she's playing Crigliano's Red Violin Caprices. This performance is actually from a couple of years ago, but it left such an impression on me, I thought I would return and talk about a few things that she does really brilliantly. I've played this piece a lot in the past, and I think for anybody that's played it before, you know how tangly it is and difficult. And particularly this variation right here. Of course, this is the scene in the movie with the young boy who is just tossing off this etude, right? And his teacher is getting faster and faster and faster with the metronome. Eventually, well, we all know what happens if you've seen the movie. But I found that when I played this piece, I probably spent 90% of my practice time on this particular variation because it's actually quite simple in structure. It's just a bunch of arpeggios. That makes it all the much more exposed. Plus, of course, your audience has heard this before, many of them, in the movie. And they've heard this incredibly high standard. Of course, Joshua Bell is playing on the recording. There's a lot to live up to when you're playing this piece. There are so many things that Ellen does right in order to be successful here. So many it's hard to count. First, starting with her gorgeous position, her incredibly straight bow in all of these détaché passages. I think détaché, just simple up bow, down bow with string crossings, is one of the most complicated things on the violin to do. There's so many factors that can cause your bow to go off track. You don't play like this in a concert without practicing a lot of martelé bow strokes in front of the mirror, a lot of long, slow hoboes for great control, and the ability to play with great sounding point on the bridge and a straight bow while the passage work is moving so fast. That's part of why Ellen's sound is so incredibly clean. It goes without saying that you have to practice a lot with a metronome in order to play this, but it goes way beyond that because actually some of the string crossings require that you do take more time. You'll see there's a lot of cleverness in the way that Ellen times this passage. Even though everything really fits within the structure of a metronome, the way that she cleverly stretches notes here or there, especially as the intervals expand and she gets higher and the music becomes inherently more expressive, she's made timing her friend and not her enemy. In this passage, for example, as she's climbing with all the string crossings, here we go. Notice how she brings out the top melody and then takes a little bit of time as the intervals are so far apart and stretched. She has that bow control built in. There's no autopilot happening. I find that often when we cross strings, it's really just a mishmash because we have very little control over actually when we cross the strings. But if you watch her in slow motion, you'll see that there's this beautiful control. And even while she's crossing strings, you can't really see it at this angle, but she is maintaining that incredibly straight bow, especially on the up bows. She's right on the bridge. There's no slipping and sliding. And all this bow control really allows her left hand to be free, which it must be because this passage is way too hard to be thinking about coordinating everything together. It's already got to be separated in your practice and really put in place. I do remember that she did a lot of open string practice with this, where she played the precise open strings that corresponded with the passage, except without the left hand. Probably seen I have some videos about those types of exercises. Well, Ellen actually did them, and here's an example of it working beautifully. The other thing I want to talk about is her complex use of blocking, because you can't just simply keep the fingers down in this passage here on the A and E string, because the second finger is actually lifting and you have to play an open A. But you also don't want to just lift both fingers. So if you watch carefully here, I'll do it in slow motion. If you watch carefully, you'll see that her second finger is lifting, but her third finger is staying down. You can call this partial blocking. Right there. Right. I wish this angle was on the other side, but that's what we have to work with. Now, on the flip side of that, there's a passage where she does the opposite, because there is open E string that has to be accessed. Here it is. She's going to reverse her fingers, keep the bottom note down, and now just lift the top. Again, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater by lifting both fingers when you don't have to. It causes a lot of undue stress. Here it is. Right here. There she is, lifting the pinky on and off the string, but leaving that third finger down. It also allows you to vibrate that note, which gives the whole violin resonance. So you don't want to just be lifting all your fingers if you don't have to. She's really efficient on stage. She's calm. And that's why she's so successful. But also look at how expressive she is. She finds the beauty in the passage even when it's so complicated. It's a beautiful sound she plays with, and she keeps control all the way into this next variation.